So this video for page 20 is going to be a little bit quicker and shorter. I'm going to be relying on you all to start figuring out your strategies as how to apply these parts here. You're going to need to open them up. I don't care so much about the colors of them. If they're different or not, that's okay. But I want to make sure that you are able to place these parts appropriately. So you're going to need to open these parts, insert them into the assembly, and then use the appropriate mates, whether it be concentric mates between the bosses or coincident mates between faces. You're going to decide a strategy that's going to get these into place. And don't forget the move with triad. I may do a short video without as much narration, just showing you kind of how I go about it quickly, but I want you to start thinking creatively about how to place these three parts in the assembly. So for page 20 here, we come to insert components. I would need to actually browse since I don't have these files up. I'm going to need probably the 2x1 wedge here. I need another one of these, so I'm going to drop that in place here. Now it's showing up upside down, kind of a weird orientation. I'm going to move with triad. Rotate it around. So it looks a little more accurate to what the orientation that I'm going to need it in. And I'm even going to right click and move with triad to rotate it. This way to be a little bit closer. Final orientation. So what I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to start with a coincident mate. Go to mate, coincident, that face of the part to this face of the other part underneath. Oops. Now that kind of fell inside. This happens sometimes where you get parts inside of parts, and this becomes difficult to maneuver. So I'm going to get out of mate mode to address this issue, and you're going to see that I have the ability to select the part 2x1 wedge that I just put in here. If I right click on this here, notice that if I select the part in the feature manager tree down here and then right click in this general area, I can still move with triad and move the part, making sure to select the right one. What I've actually had to do is kind of reposition so that I can actually see the part as it's hidden inside of here. And if you get stuck, what you can do is highlight the part, so notice that it's inside. Click Move Component on the bar up here. Under Standard Drag, that's going to allow you to move the part outside and resume where you left off. This is going to be something that's going to happen more, and that makes the assembly mode a little bit challenging, is when the parts go to places you don't expect. So I'm going to move out of there. I'm now going to move with triad a little bit closer to where I expect this part to be. What I'm going to do next is going to be a coincident mate. Between this face and that face. And then I'm going to carefully figure out here, which of these bosses need to be concentric with each other. If I move this back a little bit, well, it looks like it's going to be, I'm going to use a concentric mate in this case to make it so that concentric, this boss feature, is concentric to that boss feature. And that's going to pull those together. You could have also potentially accomplished the same thing by using a coincident mate between, say, this little teeny face right there and the edge. There's an edge right there. You could have done the same thing with a coincident mate that way. So there's just an example of one part of how to do it. You're going to need to bring another one of these parts in. And the smaller, flatter, you're going to need to bring in one more of those and one more of those and mate those appropriately in place here. I'd recommend using a mix of coincident and concentric mates to make that happen.